recording. I haven't looked at any of you guys' homework for this week yet.
I'm posting feedback right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I can't give class feedback for the homework this week, but last week I had some things that I wanted to say that I didn't get to say. So you all actually did a great job with the homework. But there was one thing that I saw a lot of you guys do, and it was this thing. So I just close the door here. But just take a second to see what this code does.
Can you zoom in a bit?
Yeah. Is that fine?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, so in the homework it said that you were supposed to take the movies array and then add a tag to it, from the rating. And so here we have a movies array. It has name and rating. It's an array of objects with name and rating as keys. And then down here I say movies.map. You know what that takes. It takes a function, and we take the individual movies, and then we give the movie a tag which is equal to something. Good. Okay, so now when we log out the movies, we see that the individual movies now have a tag of good. So from the looks of it, it actually looks pretty good. But the problem is that it's with this keyword map.
That returns a new array.
Exactly, yeah. So we are actually returning something here. Well, there's some problems. Constant tagged movies equal this. What will we see when we log out tag movies?
Good.
Nope. Actually, we're not gonna see good because we're not returning anything here. Okay. I think we're just gonna see the original array. Let's see. Oh, actually it just says undefined because we're not returning anything, right?
But I think that's
But we're using the keyword map, and that's a problem. If we use the keyword map, the result of that function is a new array that we can then use. Okay? Here we're using the keyword map, but we are not mapping anything. We are changing the original array. Okay? There's a big difference from that. So this would have been fine to do it like, exactly. For each. Because now we are saying with the array function that we use, we are saying we are not mapping or filtering or reducing or anything. We're just going through the array and we are changing that original array. This is totally fine. But doing it like this is a problem. If we were to do it like this, what should we then do?
you can wrap it with curly brace and then dot use the spread. So it still includes the original array and add one attribute property.
Yeah, we could do it. Yeah, we could do it like that. I would. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I would maybe just. We could take the movie, return movie. I'll just do it simple here. Movie dot name equals. No, sorry.
You can use the spread.
Yeah, how is it I use that?
You use dot and then comma and then movie dot tag is equals to.
Here?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
comma.
Ah, okay. And tag?
I think that translates to one.
I didn't know you could do this. Okay. Let's have a look if this works.
You cannot use spread operator
The
without a
object,
variable.
No, I don't think
but
you can.
It's supposed to count. I heard that.
Just you type dot movie. Yeah, and then
Like this?
Really?
Movies.
no.
No.
Yeah. Ah, that's cool.
So basically you spread the object and then that spread operator.
Nice. I learned something today. Okay, but the difference is here we are creating a new array
Mm-hmm.
and we are returning that, which we can then use later on.
New object.
Yeah, exactly. We are returning a new object here. Okay. Cool. Very cool. So which one of these would you guys prefer? For each? Yeah. Okay. I think there's no real right or wrong. The only thing is that when we do it with a for each, we are changing the original array. Okay. So if we at some point need to get back to that the array that we got from, let's say, the API, we cannot do that because we have changed it now. So it'll forever be changed. Okay.
So usually it's a good approach actually to make copies of stuff, so we have always like a backup.
Well, it depends on the scenario. Sometimes this is totally fine, but if I were to do it, I would probably keep the original movies array completely as it is, never change it. And then if I added a tag, I would do it as a new array and say like this, tag movies. Oh, okay, this is the original array, but with some extra information. But it totally depends on the use case. Okay.
Usually, they introduce a concept called immutability, which is really important in programming.
Yeah.
You know, so if you want to make sure that you don't change data somehow by an error, you know, you make copies of your data, right?
Yeah,
so
the thing is
array, the original one is great, but then the movies you change, create another constantly change movies. Right?
Since I still don't have any idea about performance, sometimes I try to keep the stuff simple, being afraid of like messing up the performance very much because I really don't understand a thing.
But for the homework you're not
Yeah,
dealing
yeah.
with very big data. But like if for example if I had to implement a class and I was going to write a method which says set tags, then I would expect that it's going to modify the original object. So it depends on the name of the function.
Yeah.
And if you are going to name it in such a way that the person who is going to use that function, they can guess that it's going to modify the object, then it's okay. But if you are writing something else, then doing something else, then that's wrong. And sometimes for performance reason, you may want to not create a new array and new object every time, because that's expensive.
Yes, that's a good point as well. So it depends, as always in programming. Okay, so that was one thing that I wanted to talk about. It's this kind of use the right array functions, not just array function, just the right functions, because they kind of have a meaning in itself. Yeah. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was I'll try and do a function here called render list. It takes a list and then document.query selector body. Let's assign that to body. Then we do body.inner HTML equals just something first. Can someone explain me what this will do?
Where's the list?
What, sorry?
You have
Yeah, we haven't done anything with that
Oh.
yet. It's pretty simple. It just selects the body tag and it changes the inner HTML. So when we update this, We should see ASD, but why are we not seeing that? We haven't called the function. Let's give it the movies. And let's have a look. Yes, okay, we have something here. Now we will do, let's just do movie titles. And then we do a list, but for each. Take list. No, not at all. Takes the list element and then it says movie title plus equals list element dot title. What's the title? We gave it up here. No, name. We have an error. Movie title is not defined. What is the problem?
Define it basically.
Yeah.
Movie title.
What, sorry?
Haven't defined movie title.
In the for each.
Exactly. Okay, let's see now. Assignment to constant variable.
Yeah,
So-
it's the change in the movie names.
Exactly. We want it to be lit. Okay. So now if we log out the movie names, we should just see like a string. Angry Men 12 Sunshine. Doesn't really matter too much what is in this, okay? And we set the inner HTML to the movies names. Okay, cool. Fine. Now we do this. Body.add event. Cannot remember if it is.
The N should be before T. No.
What, sorry?
No,
Add
there's
event
no T.
listener, there is a type.
This
LISTE.
okay, T should be E.
Like that?
No.
And L would be kept.
E and E. No, there's no T.
There is T in listen. It's not in English.
I love this discussion. It's not at all what I want to show, but
I have to check.
If it works,
It
then
doesn't
it's
look familiar.
okay, so when we click on the body, we set it to nothing. Okay, so that'll look like this. Okay,
it works.
Can you zoom in? Okay.
Yeah. Can you zoom in the console and
No,
oh,
uh,
sorry,
okay,
sorry,
okay,
sorry. Yes, of course. I can zoom in a bit more. Okay, and we click it and it gets removed. Okay, let's zoom out a bit more here so we can see the whole function. Can someone explain me what the problem is with this function? There is no, like, you could say technical problems, but there's another problem that, and I've pointed it out to some of you guys as homework as well, some of the feedback.
For me.
What, sorry?
For me, feedback for me.
You can test
For
one best.
Yeah. I think I've definitely done it for you, yeah. But can some of you guys see it? It might be a little tricky, okay? Render list, okay? The name of this function is render list, okay? So what we should have in this function is only this, nothing more, okay? The function says render list, okay? When we do this, now we have problems, okay? Because we render a list. No, sorry, I think I got a bit too much out. This should be what should be in the function, okay? it does some computation with the list elements, it makes a string, and then it sets it on the body. Terrible code, but it renders something in the body. But when we do this is what I would like to call a side effect. Okay? You would not, if you only saw this name as a programmer, you're thinking, okay, render list, I give it some movies. Cool. I guess if I had to kind of imagine what this function would do, it would render a list with the given movies that I've given it and nothing more. Okay? When we start doing this is a side effect of the function, because this is not what the function name kind of intends. Okay? This is a side effect. It renders and it adds a click listener where if you click the body, it removes the HTML, or it removes the inner HTML of the body. This is a huge side effect. So it can be really difficult to kind of to see these things, but once you start noticing them, you'll see them a lot of places. So try and just be aware of it, kind of see what name did I give this function, and does it do anything that a programmer would not expect it to do. Then you have a problem, because we could easily do another function called function remove inner HTML on click. Very long name. Okay, and then we could do, first we render the list, and then we do this. Okay, from just looking at this, okay, it's you can just read out the text and you can see what it does. It renders a list and then it removes inner HTML on click. No side effects at all. But if we started doing like, let's alert, if we give this, the text, the new text, right? This is going well. So we say, when we click it, we say, this is the text that we want in the body. But then we also go, oh yeah, but if text equals hello, then we wanna alert the text. Okay. Again, this is a big side effect of the function, because from just reading this, you would have no idea it would also do this. So just, I know these examples are it's very kind of simple to see when I explain it like this, but it's so easy to sneak in side effects, and I think it's something all programmers kind of struggle a little bit with. But it's just really nice to have these very clean, self-contained functions that just do what the name says and nothing more.
Yeah, probably it has to do a lot with organizing the code.
Yeah.
I'm struggling a lot with that.
Yes.
Maybe
yes.
Like I know the concepts, but then I have such a mess. It would be nice, to have like a pattern of if it's preferable to like declare all the variables on top, even though if you're gonna use them much later on.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe it depends on people.
It definitely depends on people, but actually we can take that now as well. I had an example. Zoe, is it okay if I show your not any code, but just the?
No privacy.
Okay, cool. So I wanted to talk a bit about kind of structuring code, and I was like, well, how am I gonna talk about this? So I was like, well, I'll just do a practical example of one. So I wrote up some things. Is there? I think
We had some markup out.
saying, I didn't change. What happened?
You need to move this.
What happened?
Should we maybe move the screen a little bit?
Can you all see it over here, or then I think it's fine. Maybe you guys.
No,
can.
no, no. We
Okay,
can
okay, you can. Cool. Okay, so when I see something like this, obviously now it has been implemented, so it's a little easier for you guys, or also for me to kind of visualize it. But nevertheless, I'll kind of go about this and say how I would kind of structure the code of this. So first, when we're talking pure JavaScript, I would see this as kind of, we have two parts that we need to do. We need to do some rendering, and then we have some kind of JavaScript functionality. Can you see it over there? Okay, perfect. So we have some rendering and some JavaScript functionality. Okay, when I'm talking rendering, what do you guys think I'm talking about then?
DOM.
Yeah, exactly. I'm talking about DOM manipulation. There are two parts here being updated in regards to like the DOM manipulation. What are those two things? Or two parts, you could say. So this one is an obvious one. This list needs to be updated every time you click here or you click here.
Before on the table.
We don't, well, that depends what you mean by the form. This is one part, like this needs to be updated.
Input text.
What, sorry?
The input text, the input field text.
This? Yeah, but we don't need to do anything about that. We just need to,
The legend.
because when the keyboard gets clicked on, the text comes here. But what we actively need to change on the page is two things. We need to change this list, and we need to change this kind of result. Okay, so, I'm seeing there's two parts here. So I would do, and then I'm thinking already now in functions. So I'm thinking something called, what would you guys call this? A good name for kind of updating this here.
For the function or
Yeah, for the function name.
list update or
Yeah. Maybe
list trend or
if it's specific to this, we could call it movies
Movie,
update or
yeah,
update
fair
movies. Update movies. Okay, so what parameters should that function take, do you guys think?
Movies.
Exactly. We don't necessarily need to say movie list, we can just say movies. Okay? So it should take the movies. So the only thing this function should do is it takes the movies and it just renders a new list here. And depending on how this is implemented, it could be using a UL or a li, or it could be done using a table, but that doesn't really matter. We're talking kind of more structure now. Okay, but we have something else we also need to update. We need to update this one. What would be a good name for that?
Render results.
No. Render results, now we have problems because render results could be this.
I would call it average notes, not only average notes. Yeah, it's total.
I was thinking something like stats. I don't know if not the perfect name, but update stats. What should it take as a parameter?
Two values.
Results.
Result.
The statistics.
Result and average.
What's sorry?
Result.
I'm thinking it just like this one
And average.
just gets movies. It gets movies because in that function we want to do, here we want to say movies.length, right? And what do we want to say here?
Average.
Movies that filter, that reduce.
Exactly, yeah. we want to do a reduce, and we want to do a filter. Okay? So I would say update stats, and that also takes movies. And then it'll figure out what the average is and what the result, how many results there are, and the average. Okay? The result is just, return movies dot length, and for the average, we need to do some reducing, and we need to say movies dot list divided by the result of the reduce. Okay, so now we have some two functions that help with all the rendering. Now we also need to have some functionality with the JavaScript functionality, let's say. And when I'm looking at something like this, I first see two things that we need. And those two things are, we need two listeners. Okay? What are those two listeners?
Button?
Yes, exactly, the button here.
And then for the radio.
What should we listen for?
Click,
Yes, click.
Submit, isn't it?
And here,
radio.
change. Yes. Okay, so we have some listeners. Those two listeners are the button, and it's I think it's called the radio select. Okay, so those are the two functions that we want to listen for. Okay, when these two functions they fire, what do we then want to do? When someone clicks here or clicks here or clicks here, what do we do?
Update movies.
Yeah, but we maybe this would be better to call filtered movies, at least as I see it. Because I see it as we have a function called filter movies.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Filter movies.
And to the return of that function,
Okay.
then you call update movies. Okay.
Exactly, yes.
Mhm.
So, filter movies, what two things should that take?
You're gonna take the movie list.
URL.
Yes, the original movie list. Okay? So the original movie list. And something else.
And the input.
Exactly. And what could we call them in a more kind of technical term?
String.
What are these in regards to this? They are like
titles.
they are. I would call them filters.
Okay.
They're like different filters that we put over the text. So one of them is a filter for a tag, and one of them is a filter for what the user has actually searched for. So filter movies, it takes the original movies, and it takes the filters that we need to apply to the movies. Okay? What should the return of this function be?
Filter movies.
Exactly. It should be the filtered movies. And what is really, really cool about this structure is that actually we have all we need now, right? When we click on a button here, we call this function. Okay? This function filters the movies. I would maybe call it actually get filtered movies. Okay? What I call that function with is the original movies array, and it is the individual filters. Okay? So the result of this is the filtered movies. Return filtered movies. So I can call this when I click one of these two, okay? the result of this I can just feed right into my update movies and my update statistics movies. So now I can actually do I can even write out kind of the program, how it should look in pseudocode. So it's, button dot add event listener, and we listen for click function. Okay. In here we say get. No, we say a constant filtered movies equal gets filtered movies. It takes the movies, the original movies, and the filters. Okay, now we have the filtered movies. Now we can just say update. Updates movies with the filtered movies. Okay, this doesn't return anything, it just updates the list. And then in the end we say update stats. Filtered movies. Okay, and we can close this. Then we need to do the same for the radio select. So if we do like, let's say radio dot add event, what are we now? What problem are we gonna come into now? We have the button dot add event listener, and we're gonna do the radio dot add event listener, and we're gonna say exactly the same thing here.
Okay.
So we can maybe abstract this into another function. But that's not too. Don't think too much about this.
Yeah, it has sense now. Okay.
So now we have updated the rendering part and the functionality part. It's completely separate. And when you read through this code, it kind of makes sense. Button, add event listener on click is like, okay, when I click here, constant filtered movies equal get filtered movies. Okay, there's a function that gives me the filtered movies. Cool. I don't necessarily need to know all the details of this function, okay? Because there are some details that we haven't thought about or talked about yet in this function. For example, how should the filters be structured? Should it be an array? Should it maybe be an object where we have maybe an object where we have tag and we have search input, and then we use that in our filter. There's some details here that the user, the programmer, doesn't need to know about. He can just use the function.
Of course, an object. I struggle a lot to do that search. I didn't thought about using an object. Yeah.
Like this, if I had to do filters, I would just make it as an object that has a rating. So, for example, good.
Yeah.
And then it has a search. And it could maybe be ANGR, for example. Someone has searched probably for angry, but they haven't completely finished.
And you can call includes somehow.
Includes?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do that. Yes, but that's kind of in the details of this function.
Okay.
Yeah, because you would need to do some filtering with the rating and some filtering as well with the search. But that doesn't matter. The cool thing about this is that no matter what button we search for here, we go through the same functions, which is really helpful. So before you kind of tackle a problem like this, it can be kind of helpful to just write these things down. Not necessarily as this, but you can do it as like, oh, here we have a box, and here we have a box, and then these individual boxes could be either, they could be functions, or they could be objects, or they could be different things. Here we have done them as functions, which is completely fine. Because we could do like that this rendering part was maybe an object, so it's like constant renderer equals an object, and this object has these two functions: update movies and update stats. Now we have all the rendering part is just in its own object, completely separated from all the rest of the JavaScript.
See, that's very smart, but I can't really think about that. You need like to see it. Now that I know that that's something that actually you can do. I mean, I knew it from before, but I never thought, like organizing that way. It's super smart. You have all the methods that they're gonna do more or less the same in just one object.
Yes.
That's cool.
But that's it really helps, and I sometimes I get a problem and I just start programming. But every time I do this, I'm always kind of I'm annoyed with myself, because it's so much better getting the problem and then kind of thinking about the structure of the code. What functions do I need? What parameters do they need to take? What should they return? Should they return anything? Okay. And when you have that, you can start thinking about more structure, where it's like, okay, we have a renderer constant that just takes care of the render, and then we have some listeners. Maybe we have an object that just do all the listener part. So we have the listener, it's itself, and then we have kind of the filtering, maybe another object for itself. But for me, it helps to think in functions to begin with. What functions do we have? What should their parameters be? What should they return? Because then now we have kind of the overview of what should be done. The rest here is just details of programming. For example, here we have some details that we haven't talked about, and in the update movies, it's movies.forEach, go through that and render this HTML. There's still a lot of detail that we haven't talked about. But at least you have, as a programmer, the overview, so you can also see, well, how far am I from being done, instead of just all the time being like, oh, I need this function, and now I need this, and I need this. And, yes. So,
Question.
Yes.
So here you mentioned that you can just wrap those functions as method into one object. What about closure?
Yeah, you can do it as a
And what is the difference? Because I tried to use using closure, like just make a movie factory, and then just put the functions inside.
So the difference here is now we just have one renderer, right? It needs to update this list, and it needs to also update this list. What if we underneath this have another kind of similar functionality, but it's not with movies, it's with GitHub repositories, right? Now we need two renderers.
Oh, I didn't put the rendering functions inside of the movie factory. It's only like movie-related functions inside of the movie factory.
What's that?
So we learned closures last time,
yes.
so I tried to use closure. And I wonder what is the difference between you put functions inside of the closure, you just return functions, and you put functions method into the object. And what is the good and bad of each one?
That's kind of difficult to say. So you shouldn't so much think about, I want to create a closure. Because a closure is just like some underlying functionality that gives an inner function access to an outer function's variables.
So you shouldn't think about what's good or what's bad, or now I need to create a closure, but you should more think about what should the structure of this this functionality be, like the objects that you create, or
Yeah, I was exactly thinking like if a closure can help to structure the code.
yes, it can, but we'll see an example of that today.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe that will clear up things a little bit. Because there are some different ways of creating structure in JavaScript. One way could be with a closure. One way could be with you create an object, you do it that way. You could also do classes. We haven't talked about classes in JavaScript yet. You can also do it with classes. You can do it with functions that return other functions, which is a bit more like closures. So you can do structure in JavaScript in different ways. But we haven't really been down that way so much, but we're going to talk a bit more about that today. Yeah, so I hope that will clear up things a little bit. Yes?
Let's get to today's lecture.